Today on episode 109 of Rail Talk, Damon Thayer stops by to give us the latest in the Florida decoupling fight. We react to a big weekend as we set our sights toward the Breeders' Cup. I'm Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds and had a beautiful weekend upstate with my boo, with my wife, Megan. We had a great time celebrating her birthday. It's the best time of year in New York. You know, the leaves are changing, the football teams are terrible, and there's no New York sports team in the playoffs at this point. But John, I had a very, very nice surprise when I got home. You know, you and I have been friends for a long time, but there's one keepsake I didn't have to commemorate our friendship, and it's a framed photo by my bed. And thanks to Eleanor and Umberto at the chaplaincy, I have this beautiful framed photo now of us leading the auction at the chaplaincy brunch. Instantly one of my 5 most prized possessions, John.
Wow. Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. Yes, a special shout out to the New York chaplaincy for not only, putting us literally on stage and letting us prance around like the knuckleheads that we are, but also to commemorate and give us those photos. It's interesting. My picture is the one where I'm taller than you are. So it must be where I'm standing on the step that was left there on the stage.
Everybody's got to do that. Every photo that John gets sent of the two of us, we need someone to Photoshop it. But no, that was really beautiful. Cool. It's going to sit right by my bed, John.
Oh, I'll be the last thing you see when you go to sleep and the first thing you see when you wake up.
Just how I've always wanted it. The opinions expressed on Rail Talk are those of hosts Joe Bianca and Jon Green and do not reflect those of anybody we work with or work for. Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group, the #1 accounting firm in the horse business. No other CPA firm knows the horse industry like they do. Len and DJ Stable have over 200 horses. They won over 2,600 races, and the Green Group has around 1,000 clients in the horse business because they make them money and save them taxes. That expertise is priceless. And you know what else is priceless because it costs $0 is the complimentary half-hour consultation that Len and the Green Group will offer you, yes, you, listener of Rail Talk. All you got to do is call up that number. What's that number, Michael Agresta? 732-634-5100. Green Group. Love it. Or go to greenco.com. Did John dance? I wasn't looking.
Yeah, we must have different versions of that because you're and my beat are way.
It's like silent disco. It's like silent disco where we're all doing our own thing and we can't hear each other's music most of the time because it's solely in our heads. But this time we actually do play it on the show. Go call Len at that number or go to greenco.com. Learn how he can help you and your business in racing, but you don't have to take it from me. Take it from yet another satisfied Green Group client, Jose D'Angelo, who's She's So Spicy, won the Music City Stakes very impressively at Kentucky Downs recently for friend of the show, Rich Mendez and More Play Racing. Listen to Jose tell you all about how Len and the Green Group look out for him.
Thank you. My name is Jose D'Angelo, horse trainer. We love to work with Len and the Green Group because he knows what he's doing with the horse business. That not all the accountants they don't know that the horse racing exists, and and how work with the everything that we have to deal. People see like horse racing is just a race on the weekends, but they don't know how hard is manage a barn and move for all the USA and worldwide. With horse racing. So that's why we love work with Len because he knows everything of them.
Thanks, Jose. Best of luck with She's So Spicy in the Breeders' Cup, wherever you decide to go with her. And whatever you decide to do in the horse business, there's one person you want taking care of your taxes, finding you benefits, finding you savings. And it's Len Green and obviously his team at the Green Group as well. Second to none in this business, the #1 accounting firm for a reason. So many people, so many respected people trust them with their taxes. Get a jump on your 2025 taxes. Call them or go to greenco.com today. John, I shortchanged your Giants a bit in the opening, in the intro. It looks like you got a quarterback now, which is more than most teams can say. Young quarterback, young running back, the White Lightning, Cam Scatterboo, and Mr. Swag himself, Jackson Dart. How you feeling?
I love the fact that neither one, they're both literally knuckleheads. Neither one of them has an understanding of like how important their roles are on this team in New York, in like the center of football universe, as I like to call it. And they just are, they're like two little kids. They have no idea really, what's going on or how they're doing it. But apparently they're like the rallying cry of the team, of all these veterans and all these grizzled old guys who have been, in the league for 8 or 10 years, and they're kind of just riding off into the sunset, signing contracts and everything like that. And they're being re-energized. So it's really, really funny. They actually there was a clip on the Twitter that where a lot of the Giants players did their best Scatterboo impersonation, and at the end of it, he came on and he goes, "I don't think this is cool. This is bullying. I'm not on this." And then he goes, "Nah, woo!" and like rammed his head into the wall. Like that's basically Cam Scatterboo in a nutshell.
Just please have him wear one of those like helmet condoms, those big cloth wraps to protect from concussions. Because if anybody needs it,
yeah, it's
that guy.
Exactly. There was one tweet where it was like it showed two older guys, and one was in a wheelchair, and it said Jackson Dart, bringing Scatterboo up for his golden jacket at age 40. it's like, yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But if the name Scatterboo hasn't been taken yet by the Jockey Club, then
it's coming.
It's coming. It's definitely coming. It's going to be a short, squatty, knucklehead gelded colt that with no, with no pedigree whatsoever, that just likes to run through the gate. Like I can just see, I can just see that happening.
Yeah. Well, how about like Jackson Scat or like Dart and Scat or something like that?
Scat and Dart.
No, I'm happy for you guys. As much as it kills me as a Jet fan to have both the Patriots and the Giants have their quarterback of the future, I'm happy for you guys just because it's been such a bleak run for New York football. And I know if you haven't tuned out yet already for us talking about this, we are going to talk about some racing
right now. One more thing. How funny was it, the fact that when Dart like hit his head and they went in for a concussion protocol into the medical tent, that like half the team and the head coach ran in there like he was giving birth. They were like, "Is he okay?" And that was before Russell Wilson threw, 2 passes into the dirt.
Poor Russ. He comes in for one play and then gets booed off the field.
Well, yeah, because he threw it like 10 yards short.
I know, but it was one play. Yeah, Giant fans, they're rabid. They're rabid, as they should be. But yeah, that was like it kind of defeats the purpose of the blue tent. Yeah. If everyone's like scrambling to get in there and they can see inside, it's like this is supposed to be an isolated area to check a guy for concussions, or if you're Cam Scatterboo, a lifelong concussion.
Right, exactly. Apparently, Jason Dart was looking through like the mesh window and he was yelling, "51's the mic! 51's the mic!"
That's how you know you got a winner, dude.
Exactly.
He's calling audibles from the blue tent, from the independent neurologist. What a fucking joke. But yeah, no, it's an exciting time for the G-Men. Anyway, let's talk a little racing. So we didn't have a ton of action over the weekend, but we are less than 3 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup. And, I think West Point is going to have at least 2 horses, maybe 3. It's the most important horse on the grounds, though, is the hat that John's going to be wearing. We saw the QE, and it's a nitrogen hat for those listening on the audio. You saw the QE2 over the weekend, Lush Lips winning for Brendan Walsh. I mean, she's a nice horse, but I don't think that she's nitrogen's level. And I'm curious, John, if you have had any like second thoughts about not running in the QE2 as opposed to running in the Spinster.
I don't have any second thoughts about running nitrogen, against the older mares and in the Spinster and setting ourselves up for the distaff. It was certainly complimentary that Lush Lips won, and I'm happy for our friends at Medallion Racing and TaylorMade. It was complimentary in the sense that nitrogen beat her twice in the Florida Oaks and in the Edgewood, at the last one being a grade 2 at Churchill Downs. And I think it was great that horses that she's beaten in the 3-year-old division are coming up and are winning grade 1s. I think it just makes her resume, strengthen and lengthen, as they say. I was worried about Fionn, who had beaten us by a nose in the I was going to say the Delaware in the Belmont Oaks, the grade 1 on July 4th weekend. And, there were scuttlebutt going on that if she had won this race, the QE2, that it would be her second grade one, and then all of a sudden she would be, quietly creeping into the 3-year-old filly division for the Eclipse. But she ran fourth. I think the distance, the race didn't set up for her necessarily that well, and she just didn't make up the lack of distance. Even though it was 9 furlongs, she just couldn't make up the lengths on Lush Lips and on previously undefeated Laurelin, who was trained by friend of the show Graham Motion, who was undefeated in 5 starts and ran a really, really good second. So I think the finish and the division's tightening, the finish strengthened Nitrogen's resume. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to Nitrogen, I think, is in the right spot, Joe, knowing that we can, really ratchet her up and make it, a chance for her to win the distaff, which, no offense to the turf races of the Breeders' Cup, but at the end of the day, in racing, it comes down to, the boys that run on dirt, sometimes the boys that run on turf, and then the girls. And if there's an extenuating circumstances, if there's a big story like Torpedo Anna, who goes on a run and runs against the boys in one of the races, then all of a sudden, that division kind of escalates up in the hierarchy of things. But it's still in 2025 in American racing, it comes down to dirt racing, and it comes down to the boys over the girls in dirt racing. So I think that having a filly that can do both surfaces, we're very, very fortunate and blessed. But I think putting her in the distaff is the right way to go. And actually, Joe, the distaff field is starting to fall apart a little bit, because Torpedo Anna, they haven't announced it yet, but she's not even on the Breeders' Cup website anymore as a contender. I think now they're just trying to figure out to whom they're going to breed her. Did you see that? I did that right. And then Cavalieri is out. They made an announcement that she is not going to be running, one of the 2 Baffert horses that announced that they're not going to be running in the Breeders' Cup. And you wonder if they're just exuberantly confident about Seismic Beauty, where they don't want to run the 2 together, or more likely, Cavalieri just had a really tough campaign, and they're like, bueno, she's not going to, show her stuff in this race. But I like where we are. I think that it's a quick turnaround for Nitrogen. But Joe, she's going to be leaving Kentucky for California on October 24th on a jet plane that is being brought to you by the Breeders' Cup. They secured a couple of flights, one out of New York and one out of Kentucky, and we have a spot with an aisle seat for Miss Nitrogen.
How many horses are going to be on those flights?
I think it's like just over 20. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's either 20 or 22. But basically, it's actually really cool. I wish we had video of it, but they actually put the horse in a stall, okay, in the equivalent of a stall, and through conveyor belts and rollers, they actually move the stall up onto the plane and then slide it and lock it into place. So the horse doesn't really even know, other than a little jostling, doesn't even know that it's anywhere different than it was on the ground. I think obviously the takeoff and the landing are a little bit different, and we're trying to teach Nitrogen how to yawn and how to chew gum, so that way her ears will pop, so she doesn't have a problem with the I was going to say with the gravity. She doesn't have a problem with the altitude. But her groom is going to be there, with her all the way to California. She'll land in California. She'll have a couple of days to walk around, get used to the California vibe and the temperature, and then train on the track for a couple of days with the purple saddle cloth. And then the draw is Monday, right? The Monday before the Breeders' Cup. So Monday night is when they're going to have a draw, and we're going to know exactly who's in the race, and more importantly, where we are in the starting gate. But we've been very fortunate to run horses in Breeders' Cup races 7 straight years. This will be the 7th if Nitrogen, gets in the starting gate. And I can honestly tell you that I've never looked forward to a race more than this one. It's because she's a homebred. It's because she's on the cusp of doing something for us that has never been done in 40 years, which is to run a horse in the distaff in the Saturday races. And I'm getting choked up already just talking about it. And it's just a really cool experience I'm looking forward to sharing with my dad and with our extended family on this filly. And look, we all wanted to win. Everyone who has a horse in the Breeders' Cup obviously wants your horse to win, but she owes us nothing. I mean, she's done everything and then some, and I'm just looking for a clean, safe trip for her. I have the utmost confidence in her and in Jose Ortiz and obviously Mark Cassie and his team. And basically it just comes down to, are we going to be good enough to beat the older mares like a Seismic Beauty or Darth Vader or Sarawak Rim coming in from Southern Hemisphere?
I'm going to tell Sandman you said that you're looking forward to this more than this year's Derby.
I actually am.
That's a surprising answer.
I actually am, because I think with Sandman, even though he was second or third choice and going into it, we really had high expectations for him. Because this is a homebred of ours and we've had her literally since the day that she was born, it just means a little bit more. It just means that much more because we've been in control of her destiny from the moment she was conceived, from the moment we signed the contract to breed Tiffany Case to Medaglia d'Oro, quite frankly.
It's just because Griffin's not on this horse. We can be honest.
No, we love
It's
Griffin.
the only reason. You get this one all to yourself.
No, stop. I really like Griffin, but no, we didn't offer anybody.
Kidding.
We didn't offer anybody 2.5%. Not Griffin, not you guys, not Patty. Maybe Julia will get it in an envelope for her wedding, which we should talk about in a minute. Her upcoming nuptials. But no, this has been a really, really cool thing to be involved with, and I've tried to be as low key as I can. But it's exciting. And every morning I wake up and I look at my phone and I don't see a text from Mark Cassie is a good day.
Yeah. No news is good news. And yeah, I mean, the field is obviously very different. I think one of them, there's a lot of things I'm going to appreciate about Torpedo Anna's career. I think going out on this note and me not having to hear Torpedo Anna ever again is the greatest thing that she's done in her equine life. Because I've managed not to correct John once this whole time of him saying it. And I think that shows a lot of restraint on my part. And it's a lot of growth for your friendly co-host of Rail Talk. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I'm obviously very much looking forward to Breeders' Cup Saturday. And, Nitrogen is the kind of horse that's run a full campaign. Yeah. And that's something that's not to be taken for granted in, this era of horses ducking and dodging spots, starting in like May or June or whatever and trying to win a championship. She's danced a lot of dances on different surfaces and would be a very, very deserving champion. So that's obviously very exciting. West Point's going to have Intricate Spirit. I think Vava is going to go.
Oh, nice.
She ran second in the TCA. It wasn't her best effort, but 6 furlongs is a little short for her. She's going to sell in November anyway. So we might as well give her one last chance to strut her stuff. Did you know that she's going to be the first Grade 1 winning daughter of Gunrunner to sell at auction?
I would not have guessed that. That is a shocking shot. I mean, for all the Grade 1 winners that he's had over the years and everything like that, they just never seen the auction ring. Is that what you're saying? Not
yet.
Wow.
And so she's going to be the first one. So she's always going to be very, very popular at the sale. Possible we'll have 1 or 2 more horses, kind of late ads, but at least 2. I think I'll be out there. So I'll be out there Wednesday through Sunday. And John, when you coming to town?
Unknown yet. It's really going to be predicated on 2 things. One is Dad's schedule, of course, and the other is we have a little reduction going on at the November sale, so we just have to try to line up to see when we're going to go out there and when we're going to come back. Right. So things are up in the air yet, and I'm not being cagey because I'm worried about all the paparazzi. I really don't know yet as of this show. But Joe, that's exciting. I mean, we take it for granted that, when we talk about like, oh, we're running in this graded stake race, we're running in this, and I get to do it with just the people that I invite. You have to do it and also put on an entertaining hat as well. I mean, because you're there with clients and investors and potential investors. So how does that change the paradigm? And do you get energy from performing in front of people, or does it sap your energy?
I mean, a lot of it depends on how the horses run.
Yeah.
If they run great and they win, then it's the most fun in the world. If they don't run so great, it's not that fun. But yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because this is this job has been a total departure for me. Like when I worked at the TDN, most of my work was done behind closed doors and remotely and on the laptop, especially after COVID and we started working from home. This was a big chance I took taking this job, in that like I'm more naturally an introvert, and this is not the kind of job for an introvert, man. Like you are the host, you are the shepherd, the leader, like of all of the excited West Point partners, and it's been really great. Honestly, it's helped me become like a more well-rounded person. It's obviously introduced me to a lot of really awesome, really smart, fun people. So it's interesting that you bring that up, because 5 years ago, if you asked me if I could do this, I would be like, hell no, I'm going to keep tapping away at my laptop keys for the rest of my life. But this is given me like a whole new experience and a whole new like paradigm on the industry, is competing to win these big races as opposed to just covering them. It's been a lot of fun, and it's obviously very exciting. And on that note, I want to give a shout out real quick to the West Point team and to Miguel Clement specifically for running 1-2 in the Ontario Fashion on Saturday at Woodbine. That was really awesome. Lorraine winning. She had won. She was a French filly we bought last year, 3-year-old filly we were very high on. She won, I think it was the Winter Memories or the Memories of Silver, whatever race it was last year, first time US, and hadn't hit the board since then. She's had some starts and stops, and then went up to Ontario and led a 1-2 finish with Gallon a Rush running second. Another you've heard me talk about her, super hard knocking 6-year-old Ghost Sapper mare. She's also going to sell in November. 11 times stakes placed, 11 stakes placings for Gal throughout her career. Very, very hard trying mare. And I like the Lorraine win because they had to think outside of the box. She had been running at a mile on grass this whole time and just hadn't been able to, have the impact that we thought she had this year. So Miguel and the Clement team pivoted. They got a 6-furlong race up at Woodbine on the Tapeta, not too far of a ship. She's got the turn of foot that we think she'll be better sprinting. Obviously the Tapeta was a wild card, but went up, got a great ride from Rafael Hernandez and got the money and ran 1-2. So that was super satisfying. And yeah, the fillies and mares, especially when they can win this time of year, John, we're going right into the sale. That's very, very clutch to, realize that return on investment for our partners, get them excited about 2026. And it's been a great year. And, I'm ready to close it out in the Breeders' Cup with a win. And, if we don't win, obviously I'll be, rooting vicariously through you guys for nitrogen. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like, I don't take it for granted to run in these big races, to show up at all these big spots, and to have that kind of brand strength, both on the DJ stable and the West Point side, where it's not, we work with the best people. We hopefully most of the time find the really good horses, and then we're able to in our case especially, get regular people that have been wanting to do this their whole life to that big stage, and then ideally in that winner's circle. I don't take it for granted at all. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, and Joe, it's interesting that you're selling and listener, we didn't have, this wasn't premeditated. This is just kind of me and Joe rapping, because we really didn't have a lot of topics to talk about, but I find it really interesting. You guys also manage, you obviously campaign Flightline, and you bought mares to breed to Flightline. Was there ever any consideration on either of those two mares keeping them to go to Flightline, or is it, hey, we need to close out the partnership, and the mare partnership is separate from the racing partnership?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's the latter. Like the initial, it was called Gage Hill. The investment strategy to buy mares for Flightline was totally different. As a general rule, we don't keep mares to breed. It's just, we're a racing partnership. We're an end user. So it makes more sense to cycle over the stock every year, and to hit while the iron's hot when you do have a mare like Vava or like Gallon or Rush that's like, just kind of going out on a high note and selling them at auction. But yeah, we have like enough horses. We have like 150 horses to manage on the racetrack that it becomes, honestly, like I'm impressed that you are able to do it, that you and Len are able to do it, because it's a very wide, you cover a lot of ground, on the racing and the breeding side. And do you ever get tired of like managing all this? Does it ever kind of become a burden to you? Like, obviously these are champagne problems, but I'm curious, like, if you ever feel like that you could use like a staff to help manage all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Michelle will tell you that I need a staff, that I need a good strong staff, and also people working for me. But yeah, but that was for you, Julia, and the censors. But yeah, there are most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, I wake up in the morning, I literally like jump out of bed and am excited about what I get to do for a living and what I get to do, and people I get to talk to, the possibilities that are out there. And again, I recognize that because we have an abundance of horses, we can take chances on certain decisions, and it's not going to cripple us. So, I'm like a kid in a candy store most days of the year, but there are tough times where, you got to talk to a trainer and there's a problem with the horse, or more times than not, Joe, and this happened before, I took this on full time. More times than not, it was interpersonal team member issues that you had to deal with. And what I've learned is that as long as I'm very direct in my communication, and this is for any business, quite frankly, as long as you're direct in your communication and that the roles that people on your team are assuming and that they're responsible for, as long as they're clear cut and you kind of put people in place to succeed, they'll rise up and they will succeed. It's almost like when there's a blurred line of, should this person be in charge of this, or maybe they should be doing something that they're not trained or capable of doing, and nobody really knows like what the right who the right person is, what the right answer is. I think that's when you run into interpersonal problems. But the horses are relatively straightforward. Either they're sound, they're not sound. If they're not sound, what are we going to do to get them to be happy horses again? If they are sound, what are the races that we're trying to work backwards from, and how do we get there? And it's not a straight line necessarily. Or as I've adopted over the past couple of years, what horses are better off being served in other programs, where we can put them in a digital sale, usually with primarily with Phasic, and let another organization take on the role of managing that horse and running it in a different circuit. And all parties involved have benefited from that new wrinkle in the business plan of putting horses into digital sales. I think Phasic's done a great job doing it, not just because they're a sponsor, but because I think that they've revolutionized and taken the lead in the digital platforms. And you can see it. I mean, they had 400 horses in the October digital sale, and they're looking to have like another 300 or 400 more in the December digital sale. I mean, that's how extraordinary that new avenue or opportunity has been in the business. But yeah, to go back to your story, your question. I mean, I think it's the people that are involved that energize me and also get me energy sapped. A lot of people are surprised to hear that I am also an introvert, and that this show takes a lot of energy, out of me. I like sweat through a shirt through every show, just, thinking about what's going on and trying to entertain and trying to keep up with you, quite frankly, and be involved in the business. And, but at the end of the day, I'm very fortunate and I'm very privileged to have this opportunity to work with you and work with our team. And we're not going anywhere. This isn't like a story of me saying, and this is our last show. Although a lot of people would like to hear that, but
they're trying
to push us around. But Joe, going back to your opening, like this is the most exciting part of the year for me. I love the sales. I love the strategy of the sales. I love the Keeneland races in October and how they're stepping stones for the Breeders' Cup races in November. And, case in point, you look at the 3-year-old 7-furlong graded stake races at Keeneland this weekend, the Perryville for the boys and the Raven Run for the girls. And, these are both, I think the Perryville's a grade 3, but, you look at them and there are a lot of horses in both of the respective races that you can make a case should be running in the Breeders' Cup races in a couple of weeks. That's how stout and good they are. There's 7 horses, I want to say, in the Perryville, and 5 of them are graded stake winners. And there's 14 horses in the Raven Run, and more than half of them are graded stake winners. And that's a grade 3 and a grade 2. Like it blows my mind sometimes just how good the racing is at Keeneland this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time of year, and it's great to talk about. Next week, we're going to get the pre-entries, I believe, for the Breeders' Cup. So we'll go through all those race by race and division by division, because a lot of divisions that I think are still up for grabs going into the Breeders' Cup, which is exactly what you want the eyeballs tuned into on that Friday and Saturday coming up in a couple of weeks. Quick programming note: John's going to be out. He's going to be in Kentucky for the November sale on the Night of the Stars, right after the Breeders' Cup. So I'm going to have a special guest co-host for the post Breeders' Cup reaction show. So stay tuned for news on that, who that might be. But yeah, it's these next 3 weeks, man. Just soak it in, brother. This is what we do it for. Rail Talk is sponsored by Epic Insurance Brokers, one of the nation's top retail insurance brokers, providing expertise across key lines of insurance like property and casualty, employee benefits, and unique specialty insurance. Speaking of people who are unique and special, our buddy Chris Moore leads Epic's equine specialty practice. You see him all over the places, at the sales, at the races, on the backstretch. I'm sure, not a shadow of a doubt, that he's going to be at the Breeders' Cup. And, Chris can get all of your insurance mess in order. He can bring everything under one house, one policy. Many equine mortality policies renew around yearling sales time. Still got a little bit left in yearling sales season, so you're probably at least halfway through your policy. Good time to review your current plan, make sure it's working the way it's supposed to. Got to update horse values. Where are you at on your deductibles? 2-year-old sales not too far away. How is buying and selling there going to impact your policy? Chris and the team at Epic can answer all these questions if you give them a call or shoot them a text at 317-650-4519. Go see him. Go chat with him. You won't regret it. He's a great guy and great at what he does. And we're honored to have Epic as part of our sponsorship band. And that leads us to this week's
Epic Performance of the Week.
And the Epic Performance of the Week, we're going to go a little bit off-road here for this one. This was John's idea. We're going to go to a starter optional claimer over the weekend on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Reza's Rolex, owned by Robert Cotran, who I believe was the co-owner on Helium. No, not Helium. Hades. Yeah, and trained by our good friend Joe Orsino. I saw Joe at Aqueduct a week or two ago. Always great to see him. And this horse has won 6 races in a row now, but I'll let John take it away. This was his call. Tell us about Reza's Rolex and the Epic Performance of the Week.
Well, Joe, the interesting thing about this horse is not only that it's won 6 in a row, 7 of its last 8, but Reza's Rolex tied the track record, 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta last time out, in a gate-to-wire win, like you said, 6 races in a row. And Joe, Robert Cotran, who's a very good friend, owns a few horses with us, and he actually claimed the horse back in December of 23 for $16,000, for the low price of $16,000. And the horse has gone on and won 7 of its last 8. They cut it back in distance from 1 16th to sprinting, which seems to be, Joe's forte of late, having these older sprinters come in and just, he hits it out of the park with them. Florida bred, Bucaro's son, another Bucaro sprinter, just like Bookham Dano. I know you're not surprised to hear this. Another Bucaro sprinter out of an Indian Charlie mare who went on and tied the track record, going 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. Reza Rolex is our Epic Performance of the Week.
Rail Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. Big news from the Fasig-Tipton digital sales ring last week. 240 horses sold at last week's October digital sale for a total of $4.947 million and a half, which was a fabulous result for any sale, but a digital sale, especially since it's a kind of a fledgling enterprise, not as fledgling as it was before Fasig-Tipton went full bore after it, but it's still something that people are getting used to. It's a clear almost $5 million in receipts for a digital sale is pretty damn impressive. The topper was Stifled Heiress, who's in full to Leinster, topped the sale, selling for $470,000 from the consignment of SGV Thoroughbred. Shout out to Steve Venosa, daughter of Munnings. Already the dam of 2 winners from 2 starters, including this year's Gallant Bob winner, Madhouse, from the immediate family of Grade 1 winner, Ultimate Eagle. So shout out to the folks who got in on her and the ones who sold her. Keep hammering those digital sales. John talked about it earlier. Just kind of the things that he looks for and the way that he and his business have been able to adapt and thrive. big part of it is the Facing Tipton digital sales. And there's another one coming up in December. So definitely get involved. Go nominate, go enter right now at digital.facingtipton.com. Also, the November sale is less than 3 weeks away. We've got the first supplement entries that have been added to the November sale. One of them is the dam of undefeated Ted Noffey. So definitely a very, very timely update for that mare and affiliate on a mare that's really going to gather a lot of steam, I think, going into that sale. Bidding is also now open for the Fall Flash sale, which is this Thursday, October 16th at 6 Eastern. There's 2 entries in that sale. Iron Orchard, who just won the Frizette Stakes, a Breeders' Cup win and you're in at Aqueduct. So she's going to be up for sale at that on Thursday. Heading into the Breeders' Cup, what better opportunity could you have to get in on a high-class filly, especially at this time of year? I don't think that's going to happen very often. Hall and Ice is also in the sale. She's a 4-year-old who won the Princess Rooney earlier this year, also went in year in for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. So very, very exciting opportunities there. And obviously with the brick and mortar sales, we're recording on Tuesday. The Saratoga Fall Mixed Sale is today, expecting big results there as well. Then the Kentucky October Yearlings is next week, October 20th. It's the 23rd. West Point will be shopping there. Lots of big buyers will be there as well. So crazy, crazy impressive year from everybody at Facing Tipton, both on the digital realm and the brick and mortar sales. And there's still so much action left to come. All you need to do is go to facingtipton.com or digital.facingtipton.com. Learn all about the extensive offerings from broodmares to weanlings to horses of racing age. It's a very, very exciting time to get involved in the sales ring. So we're so thrilled to bring this next guest to the Rail Talk studio, former Kentucky State Senator. He's a consultant. He's a bourbon aficionado. He's a racehorse owner, and I think breeder as well. Damon Thayer, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Oh man, so glad to have you. And you and John did a great job, obviously, with the fighting the Florida decoupling bill, and it was great to have you give that update last time. So there are wheels in motion. I saw that the Stronach Group has sued to try to get the law struck down that basically exempted. They basically said that all wagering houses had to have a certain amount of live dates in order to have slot machines. That was all taken away except for the Florida thoroughbred track. So Gulfstream is trying to sue and get that struck down as unconstitutional. I probably did a poor job of explaining it, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about this lawsuit? Does this change anything?
It's hard to say. Yes, Gulfstream Park is suing because they're saying that since greyhound racing and harness racing were allowed to decouple, that it's unconstitutional for Gulfstream Park to have to be coupled. I think it's a little bit rich, actually, to be lectured by Gulfstream Park, which is owned by a Canadian company, to lecture us about the Constitution. But I think it's a Hail Mary pass on their part. Look, they were 3-5 to get decoupling done in this most recent session of their legislature. We were 50-1 when Thoroughbred Racing Initiative tried, when we came on the scene in February. We were the late closer who got up in the shadow of the wire to win the decoupling battle by a nose. And I think it probably took Gulfstream Park by surprise. They had the skids pretty greased in Tallahassee. I mean, we found out that in the months prior to that legislative session, Gulfstream Park handed out over $300,000 worth of campaign checks in Tallahassee to try to get their way. So I think this lawsuit is probably a Hail Mary on their part. I was happy to see that the court allowed the Florida HPPA to intervene. The Florida HPPA is a part of our coalition at Tri. We work with Jay Engel, their general counsel, who is a terrific equine attorney based up here in central Kentucky. So I see and talk to Jay about this all the time. And then, of course, the president of the Florida HPPA, Chester Bishop, is a terrific guy, and he's a battler too. So I think that's a good sign that the court allowed the HPPA to intervene. They have standing because they are actually named in statute Tri is going to continue to monitor the situation. We don't necessarily, as an association, not named in a statute like the FHBPA, we may want to come on later onto the scene if allowed to join the case. But right now we're sort of letting the Florida HPPA lead the way on that. So I'm not really sure how it's going to play out because the court's not even going to hear it until January. And the legislative session this year starts in January, whereas last year it started later in the year. So it might just be them trying to throw some stuff up against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and Damon, for our listeners at home that maybe weren't around for the first round of this fight, let's take a step back and get into a little bit of the meat and potatoes of the argument. Basically, it sounds like, and the reason why we established the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative is that we wanted to fight decoupling on a state level and basically not allow it to be a precedent for the rest of the industry, which my thinking is if Florida domino topples, then there's Kentucky and Arkansas and some of the other states next where they go, aha, okay, now we have a blueprint. So how important is this fight to the industry, even though it's technically right now regionally just in Florida?
You're right. It's critical to maintain the current coupled racing and gaming situation in Florida. It's critical for Florida, but you are absolutely right. Use whatever analogy you want. If decoupling were able to pass in Florida, you could see a domino effect, the camel's nose under the tent, the cascading effect, all the things we use in legislative talk about bills like this that can set a precedent. So we built rather quickly a coalition to stand up to Gulfstream Park and defeat the decoupling bill. But that was one battle. It's certainly the racing industry won, Gulfstream Park 0, but they're gearing up for another battle. Our lobbyists in Tallahassee, by the way, we have one of the most powerful and influential lobby teams in Tallahassee. They've really got their finger on the pulse, and they say that the word on the street is Gulfstream Park is doing the same thing that they did last time. They're making campaign contributions. They're kind of tipping their hand that they want to try to pass decoupling again, either as a standalone bill or to try to get it stuck into something late in the session, which is why I was at the Kentucky Oaks on a muddy spring Kentucky day, texting and talking to our lobby team because that was the last day of the session in Tallahassee. And that's when I got the message, was sitting in my seat at Churchill Downs, and I got the text saying decoupling is dead for this session. So, I mean, it's a long drawn out process. We thought we had the bill dead to rights a few weeks earlier in committee when Senator Jason Broder did not call it, despite the fact that it was posted. He, as chairman, exercised his right and did not call the bill. We were all there that day. It was an exciting day. But, you have to be vigilant, and we were right until the end. And it was a really big deal. It sort of got lost in the hubbub of the Triple Crown season. It felt like we got more attention from the racing industry media, except for Rail Talk, of course, which covered it afterwards. But everybody was so caught up with the Triple Crown that we didn't get as much coverage. It was a really big victory. I mean, you talk about David versus Goliath, and it's something that we should be proud of. But this year, we're not going to get caught on the back foot. I mean, I went back and checked my records. It was early February when Mark Massey called me and said, "Hey, we're putting together a group. Can you come help us in Florida?" And now, we've been preparing all year long, and I was in Ocala last week. As a matter of fact, guys, 1 week ago today, I was in Ocala at the Cassie Training Center, and I checked up on Ewing and Sandman. And by the way, there are few better places for horses to be than the Cassie Training Center in Ocala. That place is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
I went down.
Damon, don't get horses involved in this podcast. This is a political podcast, so let's not mix messages. But I do want to jump in though for a second, because you mentioned Jason Broder. And, for the first 6 months that we talked, I was calling him, Brodeur, after our famed Hall of Fame goalie up here in New Jersey. But Jason Broder had a very influential, part of this play. And now, fast forward to last week where, we hosted a fundraiser at OBS, for his candidacy. Tell us a little bit about the importance of our relationship with Jason Broder and how people can contribute not only to him, but also to the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative.
Yeah. So look, the Gulfstream Park is very political. They've got a team of lobbyists. They stroke a lot of checks to campaigns. And at the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, we decided we're going to get political. I mean, you've got to fight fire with fire. We can't sit back and say, we're not going to make campaign contributions. We have to do that. I wrote a check myself to Senator Broder. It's important in politics to support those who support you. So yeah, a week ago last night, we had a big fundraiser for Senator Broder, at OBS, and we had a big crowd in there. Trust me, after being in elected politics for nearly a quarter century, there are two things a politician wants to see when he or she walks in a room: a basket full of checks and a room full of people. And we had both of those for Senator Broder last week in Ocala. You've got to be able to fight fire with fire. And TRI is allowed under Florida law to make campaign contributions. We're going to do that. Senator Broder was the first legislative campaign that we've contributed to, but we're going to look at some of our other friends and do the same before the session starts. I think it's important for us to show that we can support our friends. Mm-hmm. We're grateful for what he did. He took a bold stand for us that day when he declined to hear that bill in his committee. And we wanted to thank him for that. But B, we also want to keep him on our side going forward. And it was a great opportunity for him to learn even more about our industry. He lives in Sanford, over near Orlando. He and his wife, Christy, drove over. They got there early. They stayed late. Tom Ventura, the amazing president of Ocala Breeder Sales, took him on a tour of the barn area, which was full of yearlings for the next day's yearling sale. Francis Van Landenbach, who's I believe the chair of OBS right now, he identified a nice, calm yearling, and Senator Broder and his wife Christy were able to go in the stall and spend some time with the yearling. They had some practice because they came up to Kentucky back in June and visited Justify and American Pharoah at Ashford Stud. And they quickly learned that you can approach American Pharoah and give him a nice pat on the neck, but that you better give Justify a wide berth. So we're talking about that. And so they really got to see how the sales worked. And they were able to talk with, we had like 30 people there in that video room at OBS. They stayed and talked and answered questions and asked questions. And he understands our industry in Florida, and it's 33,000 jobs and it's $3.4 billion economic impact. We're going to continue to tell that story in Tallahassee to legislators who are willing to listen. And I think, last Monday night at OBS it wasn't highly publicized. We didn't talk about it on social media, but it was a big night for our industry coalition, because we showed that not only can we tell the story and get the messaging out there, but also that we can build relationships and we can be political too. And this is a political campaign. This is a political battle. And people need to understand, in their home states or in Florida, you need to be political if you want to help save horse racing in your state, because horse racing is legalized by statute. State legislators can take away what they give, and it's regulated by the state. So you can go to our website, Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, and there's a way to contribute on there if you want to help us. We're getting geared up for the next legislative session, and we're not going to back down, and we're ready for the battle one more time.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what we need, is that kind of organization and that kind of unity and that kind of strength on the political side. So I'm glad you guys are providing that. One other question from me, just because people ask me this about the future of racing in Florida as a whole, in terms of where it's going to be situated. Because ultimately, if you have an operator that is not interested in running racing, you're kind of going to be coming up against this brick wall over and over again. You're able to beat it in the short term, but long term, you need an alternative plan. So I've heard several things floated: Ocala, Tampa, Palm Meadows. Where are you guys at on that discussion? That, assuming you are able to hold off decoupling for the next 5-10 years, however many it may be, where do we go to shift racing away from an operator that has no interest in running races?
Well, that's a great question. I'll take the first part and then toss it over to Jon as vice president of Tri and what he's been working on. So, right, you're absolutely right. We have a disinterested operator. We want to defeat decoupling. We need to buy some time. That's our number one goal. But we have 3 willing buyers for Gulfstream Park. One of them is public, and that's Mike Rapoli. And then there are 2 others who I probably shouldn't name publicly, but they're interested in buying Gulfstream Park as a racetrack under the current coupled ball. And Belinda Stronach has shown no interest in selling to them. So, we've got to be able to plan for the future and tell legislators that we are planning for the future. So we have commissioned a feasibility study for Florida racing. I have my own opinions. I think we have to save racing in South Florida because we, as an industry, we can't afford to continue losing racing in these big markets. We've lost Detroit, where I got my start. We lost Portland. We lost Boston. We lost Omaha.
Chicago.
We could be losing Chicago. I mean, there's not much left. And unless they decide to build that casino up there, I don't know how Hawthorne can go on. We've lost San Francisco. We're going to lose Washington, D.C. when Laurel closes in a couple of years and all the Maryland racing shifts to Baltimore at Pimlico. It's to make new fans to bet via simulcast, to bet via ADW. We all became fans because we went to a live race, and we need live racing in these large markets. Having said that, we could conduct a race meet in Ocala at OBS. I was there and looked at it's a very nice mile track. You've all seen the 2-year-old Breeze shows there. But we would need a purse supplement. We've got to have a way to put up reasonable purses. And there are lots of options out there. I love Tampa Bay Downs. It's one of my favorite tracks. My grandfather used to take me there when I was a kid. They were snowbirds from Michigan. So that's part of my racetrack fan story. But to me, we've got to have racing in South Florida, whether it's Gulfstream or Hialeah or someplace new. I think Palm Meadows is a long shot. I don't think we could ever race there because of the covenants that Frank Stronach signed when he built that place as a training center. There are ingress and egress problems, and the local community does not want that place to be a live racing facility. So Jon, on behalf of Tri, has been working with the feasibility study folks, and we're going to be releasing it eventually, but he can talk a little bit about the details and where we're headed.
Yeah, and thank you, Damon. Not to get too far into the weeds because it is still draft copy and kind of a work in progress. But Joe, I'm happy to report that there are 4 what I would call very realistic options to race in the Sunshine State. There's a 5th that's kind of a flyer long shot. But look, we were a flyer long shot to defeat Stronach and decoupling in the first place. So you have to exhaust all options. The thing that I like about the report is over 150 pages, and it's chock full of details and information, not only about racing but also about the demographics of different regions of the state of Florida. But it goes into great depth of what the realistic options are, how much it's going to cost. If we start from scratch on certain areas, what that cost is going to be. If we have existing race facilities in place, and we just need to dovetail the pari-mutuel side of it, and maybe a clubhouse or maybe a paddock or a test barn. There's all kinds of options that'll be coming out, in the coming weeks. But Damon and the group at Thoroughbred Racing Initiative need to fine tune it a little bit more before we actually, open it up to everybody to see what the options are. But I was really pleased to see, just the depth of the information on this feasibility study. And just as a tease, there's a lot of options, one of which is to publicly finance an opportunity in Florida and have the industry leaders build or buy and build a facility as well. So it could be, as crazy as it sounds, it could be an industry-wide opportunity for some non-Floridians to come in and invest money into land in Florida. If you build it, they will come, just like they did at Kentucky Downs. And through the leadership of Tri and Damon, have an opportunity to literally invest in your future.
Yeah, no, I mean, well said. That's awesome. I'm excited to see that study.
The one thing
Yeah, go ahead.
I also want to bring up, guys, is it's not just about Florida breeding and Florida racing.
Right.
Those are two critical components of a massive ecosystem. Yeah. We all read about the $500 million worth of yearlings sold here at Keeneland last month. I think DJ Stable bought about 10% of them. I mean, hey.
hardly, but yeah.
But 80% of those yearlings are now in Ocala, Florida, right, getting their pre-training. I am an investor in CJ Thoroughbreds. We bought a full sister to Darth Vader for $500,000. We're partners with John Ropes on her, so we own 50% of her. And I got to see her last week at Ocala Stud. Mike O'Farrell took me on a tour of the place. I got to see where Forte and Fierceness got their early training. And I got to see the horse that I own a piece of. She went immediately from Keeneland to Ocala, along with thousands of others, literally thousands of horses. So there's this ecosystem in Florida that supports racing, not only in the United States, but across this entire continent into Canada. And we have to preserve that. So it's breeding, it's racing, it's pre-training, it's boarding. It is such a critical piece in the puzzle that makes up the ecosystem of North American racing, breeding, and training. And we've got to save it. I was glad to get down there last week. I went to OBS. I went to Ocala Stud. I went to Cassie Training Center. I went to the Smoothie King and got my smoothie. It was a great trip. Flew into the lovely Gainesville Airport, had a nice drive down I-75. My first time ever in Ocala, and I can see why it's so special. I get it. I stood there on Mark Cassie's platform overlooking his training track with a dual Hall of Fame trainer, and I looked around and thought to myself, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Yep. We have to preserve this.
Yeah, no doubt. And it really is the best place to raise horses in the winter. West Point we have our little yearling showcase that we do. It's not little. We have like 50 horses that we bring out for the partners first weekend in December. And I struggle to think of anywhere else we could do something like that time of year than one of those beautiful farms. Right. And yeah, it's a great point that you make, that it's Florida, and Florida racing and breeding is only one piece of the puzzle here. The yearling prep, the sales, like everything else that goes into it, it branches out to so many other states when these horses eventually get onto the track for their racing career. It is crucial. It's a crucial artery in this system, and I'm so glad that you guys are fighting to preserve it. John, anything else?
No, I think just to put a bow on it, Joe, you guys hit the nail on the head, that it's not just a regional fight. It's not a situation where, if racing fails in Florida, then we still have all these other states. It is such a vital role in the industry, and $3.2 billion industry in the state of Florida. But there's ripple effects, like Damon just mentioned. 80% of the horses, yearlings, train and get prepared for their racing careers in Florida. The breeding industry, the snowbird, and there's so much intertwined with the horse industry in Florida regionally that affect and reverberate throughout the entire industry, that it's not just a regional fight. And if you want to donate time, energies, or money to the fight, we like to think that we're the tip of the spear. And that's one of Damon's, famous sayings. That one and the other saying that I learned from Damon is we're in a knife fight. And you need to be strategic and calculating and don't give up the fight. And we did it the first round, and we did it with a lot of heavy lifting. And now we have an organization in place to help guide the energies in the fight. But it still comes down to the money that fuels the fire. And again, I'm going to throw up there thoroughbredracinginitiative.com at the bottom of the screen if you want to donate. And Damon, if we want to have people donate directly to Jason and his cause, what's the best way to do that?
He has 2 campaign funds. You can look them up online. One is Jason Broder for State Senate, and the other one is called Citizens for Solutions. And both of those under Florida law can raise money and spend it on Senator Broder. And one thing about him, Republicans have supermajorities in Florida. Senator Broder is a Republican, and there's only 2 sort of purple districts that the Republicans are defending in Florida next year. Purple means it's not red Republican, it's not blue Democrat, it's kind of swing, like 51-49 Republican Democrat. And Senator Broder is in one of those 2 districts, which that's another reason why it was important for us to make an early statement that we're going to back him in his reelection, because he's been so important to us and has such a deep understanding of our industry. Trust me, guys, we have to have advocates in every state where we have horse racing. We have to have legislative advocates, people who are ready to step up to the plate and swing for the fences for us. And Jason Broder is one of those. Stan McClain, who represents Ocala, Danny Burgess, Jim Boyd, the incoming Senate president. These are the senators we're going to be working with to try to kill this bill again this year.
Thanks for all the info and all the fight, Damon. It's always great having you on the show. Appreciate the updates. And yeah, keep doing the good work. Thanks for the time, brother.
Can't wait to come back sometime and report on this feasibility study that John's.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty exciting.
Please do. Yeah, we'd love to hear it. Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. Shout out to the team at TaylorMade. I know it's a very busy time ramping up for those November sales. Some of the best mares, some of the best weanlings you'll ever see are going to go through those sales rings with the TaylorMade consignment. They rock it out at every single sale. Obviously, they're best known for the yearlings, but John and DJ Stable can attest that they can do it with brood mares, weanlings, horses of racing age, any horse that you want to bring to market. They will make the most important horse in the consignment that day when they're going through the ring. They'll market them one of a kind, and they'll find you the best possible bang for your buck. I honestly would not trust anybody that John and DJ don't trust, and they sure as hell trust TaylorMade with their most valuable of stocks. So that should tell you something. You can learn more at TaylorMadeFarm.com. And while you're there, check out the Stallion roster. Lots of great opportunities there for 2026 matings. You can learn more about the boarding and the partnerships as well. John mentioned Lush Lips winning over the weekend, the QE2 at Keeneland. So that's obviously a major accomplishment for any partnership to win a grade 1 race. So shout out to the Taylor team for doing it so well in so many different facets of the industry. Go to TaylorMadeFarm.com, because when you're with them, you're family. All right, so we have not done one of these in a while where we do the Captain Obvious Rail Talk Citation. I mean, they've worked out okay so far, being the Captain Easy Stance of the Rail Talk Citation bestowing community. This was a big one on Friday. This is one that I got a lot of texts about pretty much right off the bat, and some people even suggesting them for a Rail Talk Citation. So shout out to the shout out to West Point partners, shout out to the fans, all the people that watch the show and are doing our editorial decisions for us. It definitely helps, and we appreciate all the engagement. This is Further Ado, winning Friday's 8th race at Keeneland. Now, this was a horse who had some buzz up at Saratoga, had not won. Brad Cox's horse for Spendthrift Farm, was having one of the great summers and falls on the racetrack we've ever seen in this sport. Here's Further Ado winning by, count them, 20 lengths, won by 20 under Irad Ortiz Jr. Got I think a 98 buy or something in the high 90s, and that's like this is the kind of performance that makes you think, hey, Breeders' Cup is in 4 weeks, or 3 weeks rather. I normally wouldn't run a horse like this, but man, that was crazy impressive, John.
It was really impressive, and the amazing thing about it is some horses, that we talk about the light going on. In this horse's case, he fulfilled his potential, and you're right. There was a buzz about Further Ado at Saratoga all summer long, and he ran 5th first time out, and then ran 3rd, and then they got him to go 2 turns. And let me tell you, when he went that second turn, everyone else was on their first turn. That's how far ahead he was of everybody. A $550,000 2-year-old in training purchase by Spendthrift off of the 6Ks training center.
Another gun runner.
What's that?
Another gun runner.
Another gun runner out of a Sky Mesa mare who is quietly becoming one of the best broodmare sires in history. Just a phenomenal female family on Sky Mesa. But let's talk about Further Ado winning by distance. And yeah, he probably wouldn't be, eligible to run in the Breeders' Cup in the sense he doesn't have any points. But man, Joe, this is the kind of performance that you look at and you go, I want that horse. I want that kind of a horse. I mean, he just blew the doors away, and he did it in his 3rd start, which, he's improving each race, 5th to 3rd to 1st. I don't know how much more he can improve, but being that he's a gun runner, you got to figure that as he gets older, he's going to get stronger and better. And Further Ado, breaking news here, is a legitimate racehorse.
I mean, it's a Rail Talk citation, so he's got to be legitimate. The crazy thing was, like, the runner up was 4 1/4 clear for second. It's not like it was a scramble blanket finish for the rest of the minors. Like, the runner up, who I think was the second choice, had run like a 76 buyer first time out, was beaten 20 lengths and then was 4 1/4 clear of the 3rd place horse. So this is a race that I think had some quality in it, and for him to win by 20 lengths, I think it's really interesting how much better the 2-year-old males are right now than the 2-year-old fillies.
It's a little unusual.
Like some of these performances, like Ted Nafi is obviously the one you think of first, and he's going to be favored in the juvenile. But you look at some of the horses out west running big figures. You look at Further Ado, Napoleon Solo. I know he's not going to the Breeders' Cup, but ran a huge number in winning the Champagne. Meanwhile, you look at the fillies. Oakleaf winner ran a 83 buyer, which is towering over the Alcibiades winner, who ran a 75.
Yep.
The Frizette winner ran a 79. So there really is no standout 2-year-old filly right now. And yeah, I think if the roles were reversed, and I think if the Colts were this far behind the fillies, this Further Ado would be favored in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile just off of that race. As it is, he's obviously going to be a very, very exciting 3-year-old. I would think is going rocketed to the top of the early Derby future, pools there. So that was crazy impressive. But yeah, I noticed that, like, how much better the 2-year-old Colts are than the fillies at this point in mid-October.
Yeah,
one other thing
I would throw in there Tommy Joe, though, another Spendthrift horse, homebred of theirs, that as a filly that is showing some propensity and some talent. Winning the spin, being undefeated, winning the spin away in the Alcibiades. But I think she's a one-off, Joe. I think
you got 75 buyer in the Alcibiades.
Understood. No, I'm just what I'm saying is that there is some talent there, but yeah, the Colts this year.
There's talent in that someone had to win those grade 1 races.
Oh, stop! She's a nice filly, and she's probably going to win the Breeders' Cup. Well, I don't want to give it away because you got a show to do. We got a show to do.
They have plenty of nice horses. I don't think that she's particularly impressive, and this is the point I'm making: is that the 2-year-old fillies, someone has to win those races, and the ones who have so far have not looked very good. That's my point.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one, but yes, the Colts are head and shoulders have the head of the fillies, which is unusual because usually this time of year it's the fillies that are showing that they're running better figures and more impressive races. But there is a plethora, as you know, I like to say, a chock full of good colts going into the end of the year of 2025.
We kind of have our 3rd straight, like, really, really nice 3-year-old colt class. The last 2 have been just phenomenal. Looks like we might have a 3rd one in a row, just as everybody writes off, like, the sophomore colts every year because of the declining full crop and all that stuff. But yeah, so far the colts have matured faster than the fillies. Usually it's the women that mature faster than the men. And I'm still waiting on that maturation on my end at 38 years old.
And speaking of mature women, thank you to our intrepid producer Patty Wolf for this important tidbit. according to Ed DeRosa's post on Twitter, Further Ado was the second horse in 35 years to win by at least 20 lengths with 12 starters in a race that was not a claiming race. How about that for a nugget? And how do you prove it? I mean, I don't know. But thanks to Patty for noticing and giving us insight onto Ed DeRosa's very specific post on Twitter.
I mean, that's what he's there for, I think, and also to shout about how every race it sucks and there's not enough good horses in it. But no, that is a good tidbit. Like the biggest blowout win in 35 years in a 2-turn dirt race at Keeneland. You've seen a lot of nice 2-year-olds run through that track. And so shout out to our intrepid producer and our fact checker, apparently, Patty Wolf, a valued member of the Rail Talk family. You know who else is a valued member of the Rail Talk family?
Who, Joe?
Our associate producer, Julia Agresta, who gets married this Sunday. I feel like we've celebrated several weddings on this show, but this is like a royal wedding level of anticipation and prestige and pomp and circumstance.
Yep.
And we're all so excited for her. She's had about 12 wedding showers to prepare, each one better than the last. And she's just Julia, in all seriousness, is a rock star of a producer. She's really helped this show and has just really hit the ground running. It feels like she's been with us for like 10 years, but she really hasn't been with us that long. She just has taken to the job like a fish to water.
Yep.
so well, and is the comic relief sometimes when we need it on this show. When we're feeling down, Julia can make us feel worse, but in a funny way. And we're just so happy for her and Dylan and their families. Thankfully I was able to attend the engagement party, which was a ton of fun, and I got to see Julia's performance side, which she would never in a million years do on this show. She would never show that, but I'm glad I was able to see it. She's a rock star. She's talented. She's got a great family full of shout out to her brothers, Peter and Michael, horseflesh, as well as her dad and the rest of the family. And Dylan was great too. So yeah, just really wanted to mention that. Best of luck on Sunday, Julia, and everybody else who's putting on that wedding. It's going to go great. And whatever doesn't go great, we'll get to laugh at on the show next week.
There are hearts breaking all over the world tonight.
I know.
Because Julia
Agresta,
one
commenter
is off the market. But Julia, we're so proud of you. And we love you, and we joke around a lot, but in all sincerity, we're so happy for you and Dylan, and can't wait to hear about your life beginning together. And just thanks for allowing us to be part of it, and also for, more importantly, bringing all the qualities and energies and love that you do for the show, and help propping up me and Joe on a weekly basis. Thank you. We love you, and the best of luck to you and Dylan.
Love you. Go get them. Itsy bitsy spider time. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 109 of Rail Talk. As John looks up from his notes, appreciate it, buddy, for tuning in with the rest of us. Thank you to my co-pilot, Jon Green. Thank you to Damon Thayer for coming by, and appreciate what you guys are doing in that decoupling fight. Thanks to our producer, Patty Wolf, and our associate producers, Julia Agresta and Nathan Wilkinson. Jules, best of luck this weekend. It's going to be awesome. We love you, even if you'll never say it back to us. Shout out to you, and shout out to Dylan and everybody who's going to have a ball on Sunday at the wedding of the century.
And we love Nathan. And we love Nathan too.
We love Nathan too. He's just not getting married this weekend. So let Julia have her moment in the sun. God knows she needs it. All right. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the show. Smash that button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get those pods. We're very, very close to 2 very exciting milestones. Hopefully we'll be there by next week, and we'll bring out all the animals to celebrate, as well as your favorite animals, me and John. See you next week back here on Rail Talk.